What is up, everybody? Super stoked to be rocking here on DoK Students Day, and it could not be a DoK Students Day without the presence of a very special guest who we have with us. His name is Kunal Kushwaha. He is a CNCF ambassador. He is absolutely killing it on dev advocacy, DevRel at SIVO. He also got Open Source Cafe started. He also has Community Classroom. It would be probably easier to count the things that he is not doing. We can talk about that maybe a little bit later, but very, very happy to have him with us. He's extremely active in all things related to community, all things related to students, helping people learn, helping people grow. So we thought it was important to be able to put together this session so that our interns can have direct access to be able to ask Kunal questions. So Kunal, first question, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me. So many folks here. Really excited to talk to everyone, and amazing work on the Students' Day. I know I was a part of it like last for the last KubeCon as well. It's pretty amazing, and how much you all have grown. That during that time I saw like 3 people, like Kunal V, and Vanchika and everyone. And now we have like, I don't know, more than a dozen. So so this is great.
A volleyball team.
Yeah, we could say that. We have some kind of a team. This is good. So obviously we are seeing growth, and in your case, it's been no exception as well too in terms of growth, in terms of activity. I remember, I think that we got connected a little bit over a year ago through the CNCF ecosystem, and it's just been incredible to see all the things that you're doing. And I also asked us, what are the next things you will be doing in the future? Some of the things we'll be touching on. But before we get to that, so how this is going to work is I'm just going to get this started, and then everyone's going to be able to jump in to ask Kunal different questions about his experience, about the stuff that he's doing, and perhaps some guidance and inspiration for people that are looking to develop their own path. To get started though, Kunal, can you just give us a little bit of background about how you got started as a content creator, how you got started in open source? What were like the first steps that you took? Because obviously you reach a scale in terms of your impact, your reach, and your audience that's massive. But how did all this get started?
Yeah, I mean, I started just like everyone else. So picking up a project and just going through the code base, learning new technologies. My first contribution was in my freshman year. It was a Kubernetes Java client by Red Hat Middleware. Just sort of like started going through the documentation and started using it on my local project. And asking questions is key because you'll get stuck at a lot of places. So that's sort of like how I started, and via that project I was introduced to cloud native, and then I sort of like just then the pandemic came, and with pandemic, like not just me, you can see like so many folks came out with their own virtual communities and content and all these other things, learning platforms. I was one of them. So yeah, I mean, before that I was like volunteering at boot camps, teaching data structures and web dev, machine learning stuff. And then the pandemic came, and I was like started my own channel, and there I post like technical content and some podcasts. But yeah, that's sort of like been my journey. Pretty straightforward. A lot of debugging, a lot of questions. Nothing extraordinary. Just pure like even how everyone else gets started with open source. That's basically what it.
Yeah. Do you remember what was the first video that you made?
Python. I made Python bootcamp. Yeah, it was a 5-6 videos that were each 2-3 hours long. Those are gone now. I'll make another one on my channel, so stay tuned.
That's okay. That's not uncommon either. A lot of times, but that's okay. Why I ask this is that we all have to start somewhere, right? And so if you think about the content that you were creating now, creating then, as opposed to what you're doing now, lots of learnings have come up along the way. But anyway, that being said, I do want to get as many people as possible in here to ask questions. So I'm gonna take a look at the list here. So I guess we're in alphabetical order or not, but Abhijit, your name does appear first in the list. So if you'd like to turn on your microphone and ask a question, go for it.
So, all right, good evening, everyone. And I'm Abhijit. My first question would be, how has the Kubernetes community and the ecosystem evolved throughout time? Because before pandemic, we were starting, like data on Kubernetes also was blooming then, and now we are relatively big. So how has the Kubernetes ecosystem has evolved? You've been a contributor to the releases as well. So how has it evolved?
Most definitely there now, it's growing rapidly. And I believe one of the reasons is that there something that DoK and most of the communities are focusing on right now is getting more young people involved. Speak about like K8s is not that old, right? It's like I can't speak much about the evolution because it is like relatively new. I think Google donated in like 2014 or something. But if we talk about like 30 years from now, then who is going to maintain Kubernetes? You all will maintain Kubernetes, right? So like you mentioned, Vijit, the release team, right? So they have their own shadows program. For folks who may be new to the release cycle of Kubernetes, they get to see how all of these things happen, right? There's so many teams that go associated with it. So I think like things that are happening, they're happening like in order, like they have been happening for the past few years. I don't see any major changes, but the thing that I've seen is that a lot more, they're getting a lot more young, like newcomers involved. And I think the cycle timeline was also changed now. I think it's quarter-wise or something. Yeah, you can check that online if I'm incorrect.
Next up, Abhishek, why DevOps is a career?
Why not? Why web development? Why machine learning? Why blockchain? It's depends on person to person. Every field has their own advantages and use cases. It's not like you're just in a team. If you're building a website, it's just that the developers are working. No, there are people who are like scaling that website, maintaining that website as well. So I believe the question, if you're talking from like a student's point of view, um, like why not? It's a booming field. There's so many tools and companies coming out, regularly. There's so many startups coming out that are focusing more on the dev part of DevOps. So I think, yeah, I mean, it's a great time to be in it, and also the community is very supportive. So it's not like you require years and years of experience or whatever. I think like, yeah, I mean, it's a booming field and definitely like, why not?
I think that's a good
Exactly.
point.
I strongly agree with the community part because the CNCF community has been as vibrant as it could be. It's beautiful.
With the adoption of like now cloud native, so many companies are adopting to this culture, and for folks who may find it difficult to onboard to Kubernetes or something, there are solutions for them as well, like Kubernetes management platforms. So I think like there's something for everyone. I don't think there are many like limitations now. And as I mentioned, it's relatively new. We talk about Kubernetes. So yeah, I mean, definitely it's only going to evolve.
Good stuff. Next question, Lakshay.
And so my question is, how did you find your passion? Like you are empowering a lot of folks via open source, like education. So how did you get to know that this is your thing?
I sort of like grew on socials when I started my like channel. Before that, my socials were pretty okay-ish. But when I like started teaching and giving workshops and stuff, I got like a lot of good feedback. So I think that's when I sort of like, started getting that like recognition part. And mostly like it has all, I owe everything like to open source. So like getting involved and everything. So most of the things that I do, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's nothing like extraordinary or anything. And in return, it's also helping a few people. So that's why it may, you really like, okay, this guy is helping so many folks, is empowering, but I'm just doing my thing. So indirectly, you may be inspiring a lot of people, and you may not like realize it, how much impact you're creating. That has been like the case with me. But to answer your question, I just like creating content and yeah, I just like giving talks and guiding people. I don't do one-on-one mentorships anymore because I get so many DMs. So I try to help out the community as a whole by doing like workshops like this or talking to a large group of people via a video or conference. So I think still lots of work to be done, but I think we're on a good start. Not just me. If you get involved in open source and cloud native, you'll see so many folks will help you out.
Great stuff. All right. Next question. We've got Arpit.
Am I audible?
Yes, go for it.
Yeah. So first of all, hey Kunal and everyone. So my question is regarding like whenever I try to or many students try to start a new thing, like I recently started learning DevOps. What I found is that there are so many resources. Like so, it is difficult to get focus upon the path. Like there are so many resources. Like if we are following some roadmap, or if we are following particular kind of resources, then there are too many of them. So how can we actually uh, get out of those as a maximum, so that we can actually learn and grow apart from just tweeting about like there are hashtag on 90 days of DevOps and we are just tweeting. Apart from that, how can we actually grow and get involved regarding in that field?
I think the 90 days of thing that people are starting, it's great. I know Michael and Anais and everyone, they are working on it. To answer your question, yes, definitely it's it's um, overwhelming at first. And to answer your question about there's so many resources, right? I'd recommend, there's no, so speaking from students' point of view, they say, can you recommend me the best course? Can you recommend me the best tutorial? There's no such thing like that. Just see, what, first of all, what you need is like a roadmap, and roadmap is something you can find pretty easily online, one Google search away. So many folks, if you watch the video of DevOps roadmap of many people, they will be saying pretty much the same thing. So you'll get an idea about what all things you need to do. So getting the roadmap part is not difficult. So once you have the roadmap, in the roadmap is listed various technologies and domains or whatever. Those individual things you can learn on your own from multiple sources. Don't just stick to one source is what I would recommend, because this DevOps field is really vast. So many things keep coming out regularly. And when we talk about cloud native tools and services, many people have their own opinions, right? So you have to take their opinions into account. It's not like something like a clear cut, like fact is written in front of you. No, many technologies have their own like use cases, not their use cases. Some of the videos that you may be seeing will be of, so like the cloud providers have their own like boot camps, right? They have like the cloud ready program by Google or whatever. So they are teaching about Google cloud products, right? But if you talk about like in general, getting started with cloud, there are so many prerequisites. Learn about Linux, some basic commands, basics about containers, servers, so many other things. So that's what I mean, that there's so many resources. Try out various things. And definitely when it comes to learning like DevOps or any other technology, get involved in the community as well. Hear from people's experiences in addition to the tutorials and stuff that you're watching. Okay, this is the tool. There are 10 other tools that do the same thing. Which one is better? Which one has other advantages, disadvantages? Which one should I use in my company or whatever? So that's the more practical part. Learn by doing. It's not going to be over. New tools will keep coming out again and again and again. But I think like you have to be like up to date, and the learning never stops. Same thing with JavaScript. Frameworks keep coming out regularly. Same thing with like DevOps as well. And yeah, as I mentioned previously, there's so many companies who are now focusing on like the developers, so that they can focus on writing code and work with K8s rather than working with like YAML files, if you will. So I think you have to be up to date. To answer your question, just get the roadmap, see what all things you need to learn, and learn from random sources. Just check out the YouTube comments. If the comments are saying, yeah, this is great, watch it, and then apply that somewhere. So don't just watch it, apply that somewhere in your own project. If you're learning Docker, containerize your own project that you made a few months ago or something. Apply all the tools, just apply. Application is very important. Not just DevOps, any development field also you're doing, hands-on is very important. Don't be stuck in like the tutorial hell and just keep watching videos. Yeah. And if you can, then pass it forward, write a blog, create your own content or something.
Very good. Next up, we got Yash.
Hello, Kunal and everyone. Myself, Yash Kangwar. I am a second year undergrad from India. Currently, I am leading working group operations and workflows of DoK community. So my question to you is, since you are running and managing such a big community, so I need some ways or tips around how can I increase the engagement in my team or like the community. Basically, how can I keep most of the members active? asking questions, doubts, and get them contributing, especially the new contributors? And how can we make the environment more welcoming for new contributors?
This is a great question. So engagement happens when you're giving, something for people to interact with. When we speak about communities, then we think about like community events, Q&A sessions, Twitter spaces. You can have guests over and things like that. So these are like the events part where folks can contribute to and hear from like others' experiences and ask questions. If you do these regularly, definitely you'll get regular like questions and stuff. Second part is actually engaging people. So events like hackathons, competitions like blogging events and so on and so forth, encouraging like learning in public initiative. I think that has proved to be pretty successful. So those are the two things. And apart from that, I think a little bit gamification is sometimes helps. So you can have like contributor of the month or something, or give people shout outs and recognize good work on socials. DoK has a huge following now, like on Twitter and stuff. So you can definitely do something around that. But yeah, I think regular events and one more thing, your own open source projects. You can create your own projects, and then that will basically grow on its own. Folks will try to contribute, and you can basically follow good open source practices. So if you don't have any open source projects right now, you can definitely work with the community to start some. I think that will increase engagement quite a lot.
Good. Next up for a question, we've got Studi.
Hi, am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So Kunal, my question is, like Kubernetes is super dynamic, right? So what do you suggest? One should pause every like other stuff for a while and learn it and then apply for opportunities, or do it like simultaneously?
Do it simultaneously. You don't have to be being an expert in KAs will take time, but getting started will not take that much time. So how do you get started? Learn about architecture, like install it on your local system, Minikube, some cloud providers, and some basic objects like pods and some basic networking, ingress, and deployments and stuff. That's it. You are now getting started. Now you know enough to contribute. So this is what I tell people. So whenever I'm making bootcamp tutorials or whatever, it's like you have to understand that you may have noticed this yourself as well. When you're starting with something new, completely new, you don't know much about it, be that web development, JavaScript, C, C++, DevOps, machine learning, whatever. So when you're starting with something very new, a topic you don't know anything about, and let's say the topic is really vast, and you are like 10-20% into that topic, like you know what that topic is, you know what it's for, you know the basics, then you will realize that, okay, now it's extremely like relatively easy to explore further. Like there comes a point where you don't need the roadmap anymore, where you can just explore yourself. Same thing is with Kubernetes. So something when you start out, learn the basics only, and then when you need to explore it yourself, and same thing with DevOps as well. You start with the basics, just some basic about Linux commands, some basic networking, like how computer networking works, IP addresses work, and all these other things, some basic networking commands, basics about servers, basics of containers, Docker, Kubernetes, and then CI/CD and infrastructure as code and stuff like that. So you do this much only, just the basics. You will yourself find resources, communities, and things to explore. Like after that, you will not need the roadmap anymore. So the roadmap part is actually like just a general overview, but then you decide your path yourself. So just do the basics. Then once you know the basics and stuff, you can apply for roles, internships, or whatever. I'm saying it again and again. No one expects you to be a professional, like an expert if you're applying for internships at least. So that is the least of your concern. You don't have to be an expert, but you have to have the will to learn and explore. As an intern, don't worry about being an expert. Worry about, learning. So they will require you to have an open mind, try out new things. So yeah, as a beginner, definitely you can apply.